In this video, we're going to go over how to use TestFlight and how to submit a TestFlight build for release in the App Store once you are ready to launch your iOS app. If you have not yet successfully published a build from the Tempo dashboard, there is a previous tutorial video that covers how to prepare your iOS app for publishing. If you have already published and you're wondering what to do next to get your iOS app into the App Store, then this video is for you. Head to appstoreconnect.apple.com and head to your apps page. You'll find there a TestFlight tab. Go ahead and click that. Builds published from the Tempo dashboard will end up here for iOS apps. There's also a Google Play component for Android apps, but we're going to cover that in a different video. So the reason that we've brought you here to the TestFlight tab is because this is your entry point to interact with the actual app that we have uploaded on your behalf. And that's regardless of whether or not you want to do any actual testing or you just want to get your app out there. We are going to kind of walk through how to use TestFlight, but if you just want to skip ahead to the app submission process, then check the description below and there will be timestamps for you. FYI, after you've hit the publish button in the Tempo dashboard and you've received that success message, builds usually take about 30 minutes or so to show up here. And you'll notice when they first show up, they'll be in a state called processing. This usually takes about another 20 minutes or so to get through, so give it some time. For every new version number in TestFlight, you'll need to submit it for review by Apple. That way they can make sure your testers aren't getting anything malicious. So when your first build finishes processing, it'll say, prepare for submission. So click into that build, and you'll have to add testers to be able to submit it. So go ahead and do that. If prompted, you may need to add some test information. If you're not prompted, that can be added here in the side pane. If you already have a test user for your TestFlight app, then you can enter that here. Otherwise, you can use our test user email and password, which we'll show here. After you fill out all the necessary information, you'll be able to submit your build for review. And after that, you should see the status change to waiting for review. And the review process might take a day or two, so you have to just hang in there until Apple's done. Once the status is green, then we can proceed. For new builds, you'll see this export compliance thing. You can just select no for that and move on. And after that, you should find yourself on this build's test information page. With TestFlight, you can invite people to help test your app before you release it in the App Store. Your testers must have iOS devices, and they must download the free TestFlight app from the App Store. Then you can invite them by adding them as testers here. This will send a code to their email, which they then enter into the TestFlight app, and then they can download your app for testing. The app that they then download for testing is configured for the sandbox environment. For our purposes, this just means that they can go ahead and make purchases in the app and they won't actually be charged. So you or your testers, if you want to actually get beyond the paywall, go ahead and just go through the purchasing flow and you won't actually be charged any money. Once you are satisfied with your TestFlight build, you can then submit it for review by Apple to be released in the App Store. To select your TestFlight build for review by Apple, head back to the App Store tab, select the version you're preparing for submission. If this is your first one, it'll say 1.0 prepare for submission. Head down to the build section and click the add button and select the build that you are satisfied with. As a side note, in future versions, you will have to make sure that the version you specify when you're creating a new version for submission has the same version number as that of the TestFlight build. So if your TestFlight build is under version, say 1.1.2, then make sure that the new App Store version you create is also 1.1.2. And then here in this build section, you'll see all the TestFlight builds that are associated with that version. And if that sounds confusing now, it'll probably become clear to you once you go through the process of submitting a new version, but let's not worry about it right now. So once you've selected the build that you want to submit for review, The last step is to make sure that you have all the information filled out for your App Store page. So you need to go through each of these options here in the side pane under your app page and make sure that all the information is filled out. And you'll know if you're missing something because you'll go to submit your app and you'll see a warning that says, hey, you forgot something. And you'll know you got it right if you see the status change to waiting for review. Also, be sure you don't forget to head to your in-app purchases page and make sure that your in-app purchases are ready to submit instead of missing metadata. For the in-app purchases review screenshot, you can find it in your Tempo dashboard under your subscription plan section for iOS subscriptions. For your App Store screenshots, you can take screenshots of the app from your test flight builds, but you could also get creative and design your own screenshots in an attractive way. You might see plenty of examples of that in the Apple App Store. Just keep in mind that they still have to show the app in use, otherwise Apple will not accept them. Once you have submitted your app for review, usually takes about 2 to 3 business days for the first one, and then updates are usually faster. They usually only take about a day or so. And if you want to get an updated version of the app, then you'll hit publish again in the Tempo dashboard. And again, we'll automatically put this app into your test flight tab, and it'll have a new version number. So if you want to submit that new version, again, just remember to create a new app version with that same version number. There can be multiple builds for one version number. So the version number will be 3 digits separated by 2 periods, something called semantic versioning. And the build number will just continue to increase. The most important thing is just whenever you create a new version of your app, just make sure the semantic version, the one with 3 numbers separated by 2 periods, is the one that you create. And with that, you should have all the knowledge you need to manage your iOS app now in the Apple App Store. And of course, if you ever have any questions, feel free to email us at hi@justtempo.com, or you can use the chat in the Tempo dashboard. We're always monitoring that, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. That should cover about everything for iOS. If you want to know how to do the same kind of a thing for your Android app, check out the Android app videos. Thanks.